Hello everybody. It's Kat with Kat Reads Romance, back with another video for you today. I have two books for you today. They have to do with one another, so I thought I might as well go ahead and review them together and talk with you about them together. The first one is a novella and the second one is a full-length book. I had read the first book in the series, which is called Glimmer by Munoz, and I actually have the book here. Look how big it is. It's awesome. She's redone the cover art though, so it won't look like this when you look at it on Amazon, but I was lucky enough to read that book, and it was my first single dad story, which I had never read in that trope before and loved it. Jimmy is everything, the single dad. And then I heard she was writing the two other characters in the book, which are Jackson and Laney, and they're getting their own book, and then she wrote a novella about them. Was that confusing? I'm sorry. Anyway, so the books I'm going to talk to you about today is called At First Fight, that's the novella, and then Fade, which is their full-length book. Really good, and you definitely want to read them both, because in At First Fight, you get how they meet. So when you read Glimmer, you'll see that Jackson and Laney are Ramsey and Jimmy's best friends separately. You don't realize that they know each other. When you read Glimmer, you see Laney and Ramsey's relationship completely separate, and then you hear about Jimmy and Jackson's relationship separately. Glimmer is about Ramsey and Jimmy. But there's something to Laney and Jackson, and you know, reading them and their little bits of the story, that all of a sudden it's like, oh, they know each other. How do they know each other? And I had hoped that when I was reading it, because I really liked Laney, that she was going to get her own story. And like I said, Jimmy was awesome, so of course, you know, his best friend was awesome as well. And lo and behold, we get their own story, which is really exciting. So At First Fight is how they meet, is how Laney and Jackson meet, because you don't hear that part in Glimmer. So it's how they meet. They meet because Jackson is coming to the company that Laney works for, and she's pitching him an idea, and you can tell there's something between them. They kind of, you know, prance around each other a little bit. They like each other. She kind of pegs him right away, kind of as this kind of rich, I say kind of a lot. So Laney and Jackson meet when Jackson comes to Laney's company, and she pitched the company she works for, and Laney is pitching an idea to him. It's a marketing company. He wants some help opening up another restaurant that he's opening up, and she's pitched to be the project manager. And they dance around each other. They definitely like each other, notice each other, and he likes her ideas. She brings up social media, which he's not real excited about, but in any case, he likes her ideas. And then he pulls this really jerky move, and she's absolutely floored by it, and she feels like he gives her whiplash. She's sitting there and he's flirting with her endlessly when they're off the clock, when they're having lunch, or like he brings her coffee in the morning. But then when they're on the clock and they're in these meetings, it's all business, which she appreciates. But then, like I said, I don't want to give it away, but he pulls this really jerky move. And that was the first time that I was like, oh, really? I thought I liked you. But in any case, that's what happens. And about a week goes by, and he overhears her on the phone, and she, all of a sudden, she's got an issue with her living situation, and he overhears her, and he knows he likes her, and he pulled the jerk move because he likes her. She doesn't see it that way. She did not like that at all, and I didn't either, obviously. But he offers to have her come stay with him because he overhears the conversation, and because she needs a place to stay, and she takes him up on it. And so she goes and kind of moves in with him for a while. And then the story ends. Well, the story doesn't end, the book ends. So it gives you the foundation. And that's why I said you have to make sure that you read this one after you read Glimmer, and you have to read Glimmer too. I'm only talking about it a little bit in this video, but it's awesome and you have to read that too. So then it moves on to Fade, which picks up, I think, almost a year, maybe just shy of a year. She's been living with him. They have developed a relationship. It is not a business relationship that's separate. This is a normal, loving, actually, it's not loving, a normal romantic relationship. She really likes him. She falls for him really quickly. He acts like he likes her. You read, his thoughts. He does like her more than anyone ever, but he kind of considers himself screwed up, so he keeps her very much at arm's distance away. And at one point, she talks about, she's thinking about something, they're laying in bed and she's thinking about something, and he says, well, what are you thinking about? And she says, oh, I was just thinking about going, maybe at Christmas and bringing you back and having you meet my family. Because their story in At First Fight takes place in Chicago, but she's actually from Indiana. So it's a couple hours away from where her family lives, in Indiana on a lavender farm, which I thought was really different. Of course, there's lavender farms in the world, but I live in the Midwest and I didn't realize there were lavender farms in Indiana, so that was really cool. So I'm sorry if I'm saying a lot. So they are in bed and she's thinking about this, and he picks up on it and he asks her, and she says, well, I was thinking about, it would be kind of fun to take you home at Christmas and what that would be like, and you could meet my family. And he says, Laney, that's a boyfriend thing to do, and I'm not your boyfriend. Oh, a strike two? I mean, he does this a lot with her in the book, and he's not an ass. He has certainly jerky tendencies, but he also really loves her and likes her and is enamored with her. But he himself had a rough upbringing. His mom took off. His dad was unloving. His dad just didn't really treat him very well, very affluent, kind of raised very, this is what you're going to do. You're going to take over my business. You're going to be successful. And this is how you're going to do it. Not really like a father and son relationship. So he's, a nanny raised him basically. And so he kind of feels these serious abandonment issues and these attachment issues. And he realizes that he's not boyfriend material. He's not husband material. He'll never have that because he doesn't even know what that looks like. And he doesn't even know the first thing about how to go about that. So he's just staying away from any relationship. Well, Laney falls for him and thinks that he'll come around and kind of sticks in there. And even though he pulls these moves like, well, that's boyfriend stuff and I'm not your boyfriend, she still sticks in there and thinks that maybe he'll change. And he doesn't. They have a very serious situation happen where there's a physical alteration with somebody that is after him and sees her in the way. It's not talked about that much. Ashley doesn't bring that too much. It's not a focus. Their relationship is the focus, but it does happen, and that's what draws them to Indiana to go kind of hide out for a little while with her family, to kind of lay low, lay there, someplace that this person won't really think to look for them, and while the police kind of investigate what's going on and get that all sorted. So at that point, they had been broken up. So they have to come back together and then go together to her family's farm, where she has 3 older brothers and a mom and a dad, and good relationships with one of her brothers for sure, but definitely typical youngest child plus she's the only girl and she's the youngest, kind of way the family works. And she talks about how her family is very traditional. Her mom is a stay-at-home mom. They all, they work on the farm. It's, they don't really talk about it as being a hard life, but it's a life of dedication. And one of her brothers, one or two of the brothers, I can't remember, but at least one of the brothers works with the dad, and they're farmers. They farm lavender, and it's kind of a very traditional dynamic. And she didn't want that, which is one of the reasons why she left after school and after college, went away to college, and then kind of stayed away. She wanted to be on her own 2 feet and show her family that she's not just the baby and the little girl, that she's a smart woman and she's capable. And so that's why she did that and stayed in Chicago. So going back home to that brings up all of those feelings again. And Jackson sees how her family treats her, which is not bad, but just, like she's the little sister, even though she's, in her 20s and has, been on her own and everything. And he kind of looks and he sees a change in her, and her normally feisty, fiery personality gets dimmed. And her personality had already been dimmed because of what happened and what they're kind of not running away from, but that situation, it was very scary for her. And she has PTSD and she has a lot of anxiety, and he feels, of course, responsible for that because it was the person in his life that did it. So there's all of this kind of unknown and a lot of whiplash with Jackson, and he frustrated me so much, and I liked him so much, and I adored Laney, and he frustrated me a lot, and that surprised me. While they're at her family farm trying to navigate this kind of awkwardness because they're not romantically together, but she's still in love with him, and they had this situation that bonded them, which brought them down there, so it kind of cemented their bond a little bit more, but yet Jackson keeps her very at arm's length. They go out with her brothers and some friends, to have a good time, and her ex-boyfriend / fiance shows up, and Jackson's kind of like, didn't know about this guy, like what's this guy all about? And he's not really threatened, but he is kind of threatened. He realizes that, she really did have this whole other life, and here I am, and she's not mine, but here's the ex-boyfriend who on paper is perfect for her, but yet he also knows that she doesn't want, if she wanted him, she would have stayed. And she didn't. She left him. She went to college. She, stayed away. She, did everything that she's done in her life, and she didn't want him. But yet he's the perfect guy for her. He can offer her stability, a family, all the things that Jackson thinks in himself that he can't offer her. So that's an interesting evening. Those scenes are an interesting evening. And the next morning they go out to breakfast. He takes her out for breakfast, and they're sitting there, and she's upset, and it's hard for her to be this close to him, and then to see him kind of act like he didn't care that her ex-boyfriend / fiance was there the night before really broke her heart. She keeps waiting, not pining, but waiting for him to take a chance on her, and feels like she showed him that she can be his safe place, and yet he just doesn't do it. And she knows that she needs to get beyond him and she needs to move on, but she loves him. And so it's very sad. I really felt for her big time. So they go out for breakfast, and he's pushing her. What's wrong? What's wrong? What's wrong? And she's frustrated because she doesn't want to tell him again. She doesn't want to expose her heart again to him. And yet he keeps pushing her, and finally she says to him, okay, fine. Do you want to know? The man that I love doesn't love me back. And she, she explains, in a couple more lines, and it's really emotional for her. And he kind of sits there, sits there expressionless and lets her pour her heart out to him. And he just looks at her. And there's nothing there. I mean, like I said, he's good at hiding his emotions, and he is hiding his emotions. And she's just, it was so sad. I got teary because it was really sad. So, then they kind of pay the bill, and the waitress slips a piece of paper to him, which Laney knows is her phone number, and he takes it, and he doesn't like make a thing of it, but yet he makes a thing of it. Ugh, what a jerk. Ugh, he frustrated me. Anyway, so then they leave, and they were in one car together, and he gives her the keys, and he's like, here, you can take the keys and go. I'm gonna go do some stuff. I'm like, that's it. It was really sad. I want to read something that was really showed me and made me kind of hold on to Jackson and not give up hope with him, because I really did, it's the sweetest torture. I used that word, I think, in my last video too. This kind of book, not that I super love super angsty books, but those seem to be the books, with all the emotional kind of digging in and really figuring out what holds people back and what moves people forward, and all the emotion. And so instead of angst, I'll say emotion is the kind of books that I really like, and Ashley's really good at that. So Jackson says, when he realizes, as he does every single time she pours her heart out to him, that he physically won't take the step towards her. This is something that he says. This is what Ashley wrote from him, and it made me say, okay, he's not such a jerk. So it says, the answer she's looking for is made up of 1,000 moments where I lived and breathed abandonment. Loneliness is all I'd ever known, and I welcomed that shit with open arms because the alternative was way too ugly. To open himself up enough to love was scary enough for him, but if that person left him, he wouldn't recover. And it's so simple, and yet the words explain him perfectly and explain why he can't open up to her. Abandonment issues are really hard to get past. And when you don't have, family members, or, he's got Jimmy, but he's not close to his dad, and his mom's not in his life. So he's got Jimmy. But again, Jimmy is with Ramsey, and they seem to have gotten over, and they're together, and read that book. When you don't have somebody else to show you and to help you get over it, you don't even think you can. And the thought of it is, a lot and overwhelming. And so he can't trust himself enough to trust Laney, because if Laney ever left him, he'd never recover. They come to kind of a breaking point, and she's so frustrated because he doesn't let her in, but he engages with her, and he loves her in the way that he can, gives her attention, I guess is the better word. And she soaks it up. She, it feeds her, and she wants him. But then he's closed off. So whiplash, right? So she goes and she's boxing with a friend of hers. And it was something that she tried to do before. And she wanted to do it because it's self-defense, and she didn't want to feel helpless, and she felt like it would help her feel empowered and get her strength back and everything. So she's boxing, and he comes in and he sees her, and you know, it's kind of fun, and they're all, you know, her brothers are there and they're all cheering her on, and Jackson decides that he's going to go put some gloves on because they have sparred before, worked out together, and they have sparred, and he really liked that. And she really liked that. And he felt like he was helping her as far as the self-defense goes and stuff like that. So he puts, you know, gloves on, and he gets in the ring with her. And it pretty quickly turns into her beating the crap out of him. And this was one of the times where I actually had tears coming down my face, because it just was so, she was just taking out all of her frustration and all of the unknown, and, you know, trying to recover from this incident and the PTSD she has, and trying to get herself back, and being at home where she feels a little repressed, and him not really, you know, being truthful with her, and him not giving her what she wants. And she knows that he loves her. She knows, but he won't let her love him. And she beats the crap out of him. And I laugh now, but it was so emotional, because wouldn't you just love to do that to your significant other, your husband, your boyfriend, your whatever, your partner, your person, your love that frustrates you? Wouldn't you love to get in a ring with them once in a while and throw some punches? No, sorry, I know that's a little, anyway. But it's really sad. And you know what? He stands there and he lets her, because he knows. And it was highly, highly emotional. And Ashley wrote it so beautifully. My heart was in my throat, and I had tears down my face. After that, they go outside of the ring, and she's leaving. And I have another part that I want to read. And it's funny, because the stuff that I highlighted was a lot from Jackson's point of view. Maybe because I was trying to understand him all the way through the book, and I really wanted to like him, but he was frustrating me. So I highlighted a lot of things that he said, because I connected with Laney immediately, and I knew her, and I felt, you know, I felt her organically. Like, there was no question. I got her. But Jackson, I didn't get. He frustrated. How many times have I said frustrated? Anyway, so I want to read what he says. This is from his perspective. I let her say everything, and then I let her walk away. This was for the best, a clean break for us. I wouldn't be changing anytime soon. I didn't know how to love her the way she deserves. I had to remember that this was always better for us. She would find someone and marry. My heart would crack. And my breath would hitch, especially when I saw her pregnant, or holding her kids, or kissing her husband. But eventually I'd get over it. Eventually the pain would fade. And isn't that true, that when we have to let someone go, you know, what's that old saying? If you love someone, let them go. If they come back, it was meant to be. So because he can't get over himself, you know, says, okay, for her and for me, like, I have to just completely let her go. And it's going to kill me, but I'm going to do it. And he lets her go. He lets her walk away after he kicked her ass. I'm sorry, after she kicked his ass. It was horrible. But in that sentence, that's where we get the title for the book. That eventually it would fade. He hopes that eventually his feelings for her would fade. Good news is, it's a happily ever after. It's so good. There were many turns that happened that, not really twists, there were many turns that happened that were so surprising to me. I can read, 100 books a year, romance books a year, and because I love romance and I love the chase and I love love stories. So when I'm reading a book, it's always new and surprising. A new author is a fresh take, you know, it's always, you know, new. But Ashley surprised me in this book. And just when I knew this was where they're going to get together, nope, there's a turn, or nope, not yet. So you're hanging on in the best way, and it was really worth reading. I really feel like I understood at the end of it. I understood Jackson, and I already knew Laney, but Jackson came back around, and I am a fan of Jackson now. And I wish that it wasn't, as always with stories that I love, I wish it wasn't the end for them, but they do get their happily ever after. Read it, and read Glimmer, and it's definitely worth. And I've been really lucky, like I said in my last video, that I've read quite a few really good books lately, and I know that there's so many more out there, and I can't wait to get to the next one. And Ashley is one of those authors that I will continually read every single book that she releases, and I can't wait for the next book that she's going to release. So to tie it all up, read Glimmer. That's the first book with Ramsey and Jimmy. So good. That's available on Kindle right now, and paperback, I believe. But remember, I'm going to talk about Kindle because that's what I primarily read on. And then At First Fight is the novella with Laney and Jackson, and that's 99 cents on Kindle right now. And Fate is available. It was just released about a week ago, and it's $2.99 on Kindle. Thank you so much again for stopping by. I'm really enjoying this. I'm so appreciative of you taking your time to listen about these great books that I've read and learning about new authors. I love finding new authors, reading new authors. I love going back and rereading some of the books that I've read, you know, from years ago, and learning new things in those. So in the comments, let me know what you're reading and what you think I should read. Let me know some authors that you love, some book series or just books that you love. And stay tuned for my next video, which will be on, again, a novella, and then the book that comes after that, which is super exciting. And the novella is really interesting, about a character that is really creepy. So there's a little teaser for you. It's awesome. Make sure you check back for that one, and I'll see you soon.